This podcast was created to highlight the experiences of women serving in the military. Our voice is not the majority, but collectively, we have the power to help each other one sister at a time. Join us as we unpack the good, the bad, and the ugly. This is When We Serve. All right, everybody, so a little disclaimer before we get started. The opinions and perspectives shared today solely belong to the individuals and do not reflect the official stance of the DoD or any of its entities. All right, what's going on, everybody? So today I have the honor of introducing someone that I actually just started following on TikTok. Her videos crack me up, but I'm going to let her introduce herself. What's up, sis?
What's up? How you doing, sis? I'm glad to be here today. I'm CSC Ogburn. Normally go by OG. That's the nickname I got in the military. So OG it is. Everybody could call me that.
Heck yeah. Okay, where are you at right now?
I'm stationed at ATG Mayport in Jacksonville, Florida.
Okay, so you out there inspecting everybody.
Yes.
How you been? How long have you been out there in Mayport?
I've been out in Mayport since technically 2019. So my last ship was stationed out here, USS Paul Ignatius DDG 117.
Oh, small boy sailor.
Home port shifted to Spain. Spain was awesome, and then I came back here since I was closer to family. I'm originally from Georgia, so I said I was going to come back because I was hoping this would be my final tour, but I do have to return back to sea duty to finish my 20 years, so.
Okay, that's what's up. So you're from Georgia. Where else have you been stationed at?
I've been stationed, so I started out in California, San Diego, USS Dewey, DDG 105, and then I had my son on my first ship, and I went to a squadron. Went back to finish sea duty on USS Bonhomme Richard.
Okay.
And then we hold port.
What year were you? You were there before the fire.
Before the fire.
Yeah.
Before the fire. And then went to Hull Swap in Spain with the Essex. Came back with the Essex.
Okay.
Then I went to Bahrain, New Jersey. After New Jersey, came to Mayport to sea duty. Okay. And then after my last ship, DDG, went to ATG Mayport now.
Oh, dang. So you've been everywhere. What's in New Jersey?
So it was Naval Air Station Lakehurst.
Okay.
It was like a small base for like ACs and the AG rates.
Yeah.
And then the Air Force bought out the base. It was the Air Force led. So it's a tri-service base. So it's the joint base with the Air Force, the Army, and then the Navy base.
Okay. Which one was your favorite?
I like New Jersey, actually. Like, it was fun for shore duty.
That's like right by New York City and everything.
Yes, so you can travel to New York, Philly, Atlantic City, DC. It was easy just to travel right in that area.
That's what's up. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I kind of just bounce between San Diego and Hawaii. That's where I go.
I understand.
Yeah. But so the amphib life. I was on the Boxer. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How'd you like it?
She's old. She's old. I mean, not as old as the Essex. What, Essex is 2, Boxer's 4,
Essex,
yeah. But
Essex was pretty old. So when we went to Japan for the whole swap, they did a lot of rework on it after we brought it back to San Diego. So she's back up and kicking, and we were like, okay, back out to sea we go.
Yeah, exactly. So do you prefer small boy life to amphib life, or what's your preference on that?
My preference, I prefer amphib life.
There you go.
Just because as a CS, it's more people, more space. It's a lot more to get done, though, because I know we had the Marines deploy with us. And even when we did when we went to Hawaii, we did the RIMPAC. We had other foreign military come on board. So it was just a lot, especially with receptions and stuff. But I like the pace of that. Like I said, it's more people, more to get done, more hands to get stuff done. But I would say amphib life, definitely.
Yeah, it's more fun, I feel like.
Absolutely.
I mean, I feel like on small boys, I don't know. I went to the Calpens back in, when was it? 2021, but the Calpens was going through modernization. So I never went underway or anything like that. And we were on a barge. So I don't really know what small boy life is, but it looks too serious for me.
Small boy life is serious. I can say that because On my last ship, USS Paul Ignatius DDG 117, when I first got there, I was one of four CS1s. And quickly but surely, I became one of one. So, pre-coms, they're easily, I don't want to say easily, once pre-coms have their manning and other ships are low on manning, they look and see, hey, pre-coms have four CS1s, we can take one. So it's slowly like, oh, we're going to take this one, we can take that one. And then one of the other CS1 that was left with me, he made chief, so then he transferred or retired. And then I was like, okay, it's just me.
Yeah.
It's just me.
Did you make chief out of there?
I did. I made chief out of there on Paul Ignatius.
Yeah. I'm currently pre-comming the USS Harrisburg, so LPD 30. Oh. So I kind of know that life because right now our schedule just keeps getting pushed.
Absolutely.
And so they're like, yeah, you know what? You're not doing anything right now. Let's take you. It's like,
yeah, pre-com life is whoever decides to go pre-com, please make sure you know what all comes to pre-com, because I've done two. My first ship, USS Dewey, DDG 105, was a pre-com. And the seat time doesn't start until the ship commissions. I'm like, oh my gosh, people be there 6 or 7 years. I'm like, I say, that's crazy. People be there a long time. But just know what you're getting yourself into. Reach out, make sure you're getting information for the ship, because you're building it from scratch. So you want to know that you got all the instructions, you're understanding what's expected after y'all get commissioned, because it's just up tempo until you get all your certifications and things.
Yeah, my guys now, they're like, oh, we're chilling in the building. I say, boy, y'all better wait, because once we get to Mississippi, it's a wrap. Were you in Mississippi or were you in Bath?
Yes, I was in Pascagoula, Mississippi twice. I was like, I thought I learned my lesson the first time, because after my first pre-com, I was like, I'm not doing it again. But with the orders for Paul Ignatius, I was like, I can go home. I'm closer to family. I already had my house in Jacksonville, so I was like, it's the best to go back to Jacksonville.
Okay, so they already knew they were going to go to Jacksonville before. Okay, yeah. I pre-commed the Mertha in 2016, so I was out there. But I feel like when I chose these orders, because everyone's like, why are you doing back-to-back sea duty? I was like, look, I'm very strategic. I look at when it's going to commission or when it was Christian. And I was like, I got time. I was like, I got a little shore duty, right? So about a year at the building. That's my shore duty. And then I go right back to the boat. And everyone was like, nah, that's crazy. But for me... Right? I don't know. I'm like one of those weirdos that I only feel accomplished when I'm on sea duty. Because as an IT, when we go to shore duty, we stand 12-hour, just rotation watch. And I'm just like, nah, this ain't it.
The lifestyle changes.
Yeah.
See, CS, we do both. We do the same on shore, same on sea. So I was like, do I really want to do the same thing on my shore duties?
Yeah.
Or do I find something where I could kind of take a break, reset for going back to sea? So that was my concept. When I did after my first ship, I was like, okay, let me get a break. Let me go do something else outside of my rate. Granted, it doesn't help, especially when you're still taking the exam and you still got to keep that information. You want to build that routine up. However, I like the way I did it for my career, because it's a change of pace. I got to slow down, reevaluate some things, take care of my personal life, and then get back into the CS life on the ship.
Yeah, I definitely think that everyone's looking for different things, whether they rotate to sea and shore, but it's definitely just being proactive about it, right? Just making sure, because I know a lot of people, they'll go into my Navy assignment and they'll be like, oh, cool, Spain. And they they won't talk to their spouses, they won't think about okay, well my kids, the up-tempo, my kids. So definitely looking into what everywhere actually has for your family or just for yourself in general.
For yourself, definitely.
Yeah.
Because when we changed home ports from Jacksonville to Spain, I wasn't prepared for the 4 months in, 4 months out. I didn't know what forward deployed was. And I was they was like, oh yeah, Spain's forward deployed. I'm like, what does that mean? They was like, oh, 4 months in, 4 months out. So when you think 4 months in, 4 months out, when you're in, you're in. You're going to be able to take care of things. You're going to be able to do the things. No, you're not. You're planning for the next 4 months out. So it's like a constant rotation of you're 4 months out, but then you're planning for the next 4 months out. We still got breaks. We had Palm and things like that. They still gave us time, but it still wasn't enough time to reset for the next 4 months.
Yeah. And so you were able to whole swap from San Diego when you went to Japan, right? From the BHR to the Essex. Did they give you guys that option over there?
They did. Some people actually stayed with the Bon Machar and some got to come back. I know my son was back in San Diego, so I chose to come back with the Essex. So they did give you that option.
What about when you went to Spain?
Same as Spain. They did too. They gave us the option. I went to Spain because I only had a year left. So I was like, I'm going to go. And then, I'll come back in a year and see what happens.
Did your son go with you or?
No, my son did not go with me. Unfortunately, due to the lack of resources, I would say. I was asking questions. I was a CS1 at the time, asking like, hey, what are the resources for a single parent? How can I get someone to watch my son? And, the typical answers, they were like, oh, there's nannies in Spain. I was like, I don't want a stranger watching my son. Or, I didn't have a family member that could uproot their life to just come. So it was kind of difficult at the time trying to go to Spain.
Yeah. Because and I heard too, like that 4 months in, 4 months out, like sometimes that 4 months in isn't always 4 months in.
No, it's not. It's not. Sometimes even the 4 months out gets extended because there was one situation where they was like, oh, we're going to be back before Thanksgiving. Then they was like, no. So I planned before. I said, we're going to do Thanksgiving underway. I said, I'm just going to plan for it. So we had enough, to supply for the Thanksgiving underway because we got extended. But then they were talking about, oh, we might not be back by Christmas. Then they was like, oh, CSC, do you have enough food to make it through Christmas? I said, I can make it work. I can make it work. I
what y'all want to eat?
What y'all want to eat though? Like we can get through there, but it might not be exactly what you want. But we can make it happen. So that was some difficulties we had as far as like them talking about the schedule and how to kind of accommodate, during them. But we did get back in before Christmas. Thank you for that.
Did you go home for Christmas, or how was Christmas in Spain?
I did not, because I was transferring in April.
Okay.
So I chose to just stay there since I was leaving. I was PCSing in April. So I was like, I only had another 4 to 6 months left.
Yeah.
So, and then during that time, after we got back in December, we were going in the yards in February. Oh, so we went in the yards in February. So it was a short time. So
what was your favorite part about Spain?
I went to Madrid.
Okay. I heard traveling
on
was good.
some leave. Yeah. Traveling was good, and I went to Barcelona before I left.
Okay.
So it was nice to travel.
Yeah.
Madrid was like a train ride away, maybe like an hour train ride, and then Barcelona was like an hour flight.
Did your kid ever get to go out there to visit you?
No. So I hated the fact like I couldn't get him to come out there, especially since I only had a year. So I was explaining to my mom, I'm like, by the time I hit 9 months in the year of being over there, we're literally gonna be packing up to come back stateside. So I just chose to opt out of, just wait the 9 months. I'll be back, in a year. So I was just like, I'd rather not even deal with the back and forth because I'm very like, I have mother's guilt a lot, so I'm just like, you come out here, I'm gonna start crying and I'm gonna feel bad. So I'm like, I'm like, let me just stay doing what I need to do, and then once I get back, because he's 14 now, so I'm just like, I want to see you graduate. He's he's in ninth grade, so I'm like, I still have to go back to sea. So we're talking plans of taking him where I'm going now since he's older.
Okay.
So hopefully that works out and we can, finish out. He graduates. I finished the Navy.
Yeah. Oh, that would be cute. You guys do that at the same time. Yeah. So is he your only child?
Yes, he's my only child. Mm-hmm.
So how was it navigating being a single parent? Because you weren't always a chief, right? So you were a junior sailor when you had him. So how was that?
That was tough because, when you initially come in, you're not really thinking about, I'm going to start a family. Let me look into what the resources are or what's the guidance for being a parent in the military, So once I was pregnant, I didn't want to believe I was pregnant. I was like, no, the tears and the waterworks, because I'm like, how is this going to affect me moving forward, Are people going to think I'm, a skater or I'm just making up excuses? So all the anxiety with that came. And so moving forward, I still had good leadership that encouraged me, like, don't let this stop your career.
Yeah.
Same as with my mom. She was like, this is just one step, this is a blessing, so just make the best of it. If you need help, we'll be here to help you.
That's
So,
awesome.
it was good, so I was like, moving forward, I just made a decision to be like, this is my stability. I got benefits, medical benefits. We got, food. We got food, money, shelter. So I'm
Yeah.
just like, it was for the greater good to just stay in and kind of work through the details.
Yeah.
Now, when I realized, after having my son, the harsh reality comes and set in, like, it's just me.
Yeah.
Because I was in San Diego and we were from Georgia. So my mom would come out, months at a time to try to help me out. But she's like, you're going to have to figure it out by yourself. And I'm like crying, tears. I'm like, no, don't leave me.
Yeah.
So, it's like, everybody don't have a family member that could just pick up and be like, okay, I'll be here to support you for a little while. And then, move forward. And then the family care plan is what really got me. I was like,
so I'm
gonna get in trouble for having a family.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, wow. I was like, so that reality set in. So I'm still trying to navigate. Okay, who can get them in 30 days or less? Who can get them for more than 30 days? And luckily, I wasn't the only single mother. I built a village throughout my commands. I got homegirls that's be like, girl, anytime you need something, we got you. So it wasn't just, trying to figure it all out by myself, because a lot of people offered help. And what was scary was I didn't have a car. When I first got pregnant, I didn't know how to drive. I didn't have a car. I was like, what am I going to do?
How old are you?
I was 21 when I had my son. So, a lot of people's like, how you don't know how to drive? I'm like, look, I came from a small town in Georgia. And I don't know. I don't know what the plan was, coming in and trying to figure out how to drive. One, I was
like, who gonna teach me?
Who gonna teach? Exactly. So, I had to buy driving lessons, and it was a lot of lessons learned in having my son and being prepared for being a single parent, you know? I didn't want to be a single parent, but it just it worked out like that.
Yeah, that's life.
Especially with, his dad was a Marine. And his dad passed away in 2016, God rest his soul.
I'm sorry.
So it's okay.
Crazy.
We've figured out things, and we've got through it. So, it was just tough trying to piece all that together as the years went by. So, I had him in 2010. So at that time I was CS3. So, young CS3, no car. I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to stay that's close to base. Thank God, people were there to be like, if you need a ride to work, I'll pick you up on the way to work.
Yeah.
And, my mom always says she's thankful for people that have taken care of me throughout my career, because I didn't know what to do. I wasn't prepared for, having to move around like that. And, once I transferred from my ship to shore duty, I stayed on base for a little while. They put me in a barracks room. So still the barracks room is on one side of base.
Yeah.
And then the squadron. So I was like, man, like, these were some tough times, and I had to learn, hey, you got to figure it out, or, what's going to happen to your kid, So it was tough at first, especially until I got my license, until I started picking up on things. I was talking to people like, how did you do this? And then as time progressed on, going to different commands, I knew what questions to ask.
Yeah.
Like, what are the resources? What are my working hours? What do I need to, have done? Is there any outside resources that I can use? So with all that being said, I was better prepared as I went to the next command, and the next command.
Yeah. Knowing what you know now, right? So your experience back when you were CS3, when you had your son, what advice would you give to somebody who could be in your situation, where they're young junior sailor about to have a kid, don't really know like all there is to know about having a child? What advice would you give them?
Advice I would give to them is, as I stated before, look at your resources at your chain of command, ask questions to other parents, whether it's dual military or, single parents in your command. Do your own research, because people will tell you anything. Make sure you understand what that family care plan entails. Make sure you have a fully detailed plan, especially, supporting your child financially, and making sure you know what schools are available. If your child has special needs, do the school offer special needs? Because I've slowly but surely, as I've grown up, I've watched other people struggle with that. They're like, oh, some people are EF&P family members and they don't understand the full details, or sometimes their family care plan fails and now they got to get kicked out the military.
Yeah.
Just have a game plan for the worst case, moving forward, and make the best decisions you can for you and your family.
Yeah, I think that's important too, because you are going to get a lot of advice. I know when we had our daughter, people, they want to help. They think they're being helpful, and most of the time they are. But sometimes you just got to do what you feel is right for you and your family.
Absolutely, because
and
everybody else is, and not to cut you off.
no,
But
you're good.
everybody else is, because
Yeah.
as I grown up, especially I think between CS1 to Chief now, you have all kind of situations that come up. People like, oh, I need to take my child to their appointment, or oh, my wife needs me to do this, or my husband needs me to do that. And I'm like, okay, everybody else is prioritizing their families and their situation. Why do I feel burdened by not prioritizing mine? And I tell young sailors that anybody that has a kid, don't feel burdened by what you're asking for your child.
Yep.
It's either a yes or a no.
Yep.
The worst thing people can say is no. And you reschedule appointments, you reschedule what you need to do, and then be there for your child. Because I think that was one of the biggest regrets I have, for not knowing to prioritize. Nobody actually told me and encouraged me to, hey, prioritize your child.
Yeah.
Prioritize this, So I'm like, now that I know to tell people that, hey, regardless of what the outcome, regardless of how people feel that you're prioritizing your child's sick, or you have to stay late from work, or you come in later, do what you need to do for your family if you feel like that's the best decision.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So the Boxer was my first Chief tour, right? So I got redistricted.
Okay.
I went to the Boxer, and my daughter was born. She's probably like 2 or 3. And so having my first child as a Chief, I feel like is a lot different than having your first child as a CS3, right?
Understood. Yeah.
I had a lot more influence, I guess you can say, right? And so I had junior sailors that had kids, and I could tell that they were hesitant to be like, hey, Chief, can I go to this appointment?
Absolutely.
And so I kind of put it out there. I was like, you guys, if we're in port, go take care of your family.
Yes.
If your kid is sick, cool, let me know. Text me in the morning. Let me know what's going on. And I did have some disgruntled sailors who would be like, oh, so if you got a kid, you get time off. And I said, look, if y'all need mental health days, let me know. But I told them, if the work is done, you go take care of what you got to take care of.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, we're going to get underway. We're about to deploy. Your family needs you right now. So if you have the opportunity, then take it. But I don't like, sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good.
I really hate that in the military, we're wired to be like, oh man, we got this inspection. I'm not even going to ask. No, ask. Because at that point, if I have a problem because you go and take your kid to an appointment, that's my fault. Because you're a single point of failure. And I tell my guys that all the time. Nobody should be a single point of failure, because if you want to take leave, or God forbid an emergency comes up, then we're all going to fail.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You hit the nail in the coffin with that one. Because I'm like, when I was in New Jersey, and it was me and 3 other girls that were single moms, and there was a guy that was a single dad. They're not trying to single them out, but most of the time the single moms got the grief. They're like, oh, you got to go to another appointment again. Oh, are you going to be able to get your work done? So it's like, I don't like that it's the nature of the Navy to be like, oh, either a single parent, you kind of get shitted on, basically, for taking care of your family. And I'm like, I really want that culture to be broken, because I've fought for sailors. Even I had he was a CS3 at the time. He was taking the CS2 exam. And they were like, oh, he has to be here. This is his appointed place for the exam. I said, oh, okay. So I was like, let me talk to him. I said, you want to be there for your child's being born? He's like, yes, Chief, if you can, whatever you could do. Actually, I was a CS1. He was like, CS1, if you, whatever you could do to get me, to see my child be born, I'd be greatly appreciative. And I'm like, okay, cool. I said, hey, go in there, do what you need to do to take the exam, and just keep me updated on the status of your wife. So he kept me updated. He's like, oh, she went to the hospital, whatever. I was like, okay, you do what you need to do to take the exam,
Mm-hmm.
and you let me know when you're done, and I will make sure your emergency leave gets approved.
Mm-hmm.
So I did what I talked to them because I didn't have a chief at the time. I think I had a LSC. We were getting an incoming
Yeah.
CS at the time. So me and LSC talked. I said, LSC, I don't need him, and we can take care of the galley and the operation without him. I said, I really want him to go to see his child be born. And we he did what he needed to do for the exam. He got finished. He put on CS2. And I really hate that, we try to take these opportunities away because they're like, oh, he needs to be here, he needs to be there. I'm like, so y'all telling me there's no way to accommodate these sailors, and not trying to say that, oh, parents, like you said earlier, like we have to make excuses because there are just single sailors that are here.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a family, so it's like, oh, you're making the other sailors work to make up the work for those sailors. No, it's not that. It's just,
Yeah.
this is what's this sailor's priority. Just like you have priorities when you want to take leave or you want to go to a family member's wedding. Because I've had those situations too. Say like, oh, I plan to go to my brother's wedding. Is it possible that these are the same
Yeah.
differences? I will fight until I can't fight no more to make sure that you can get where you need to go. Does it work out? No. Please don't quote me. It don't
Yeah.
work out all the time. But
Yeah, it doesn't,
I'm gonna do
unfortunately.
everything in my power. Everything in my power, and my power. It only goes so far as a
Mm-hmm.
chief. So it's just like, you still got to do what the COXO and CMC requires
Mm-hmm.
you to do, especially when it comes to underway. Because like I guess the sailor that wanted to go to his brother's wedding, we were going to be underway, and I had to be upfront and honest. It was a CSSN. I said, hey,
Oh,
we
yeah.
have a tentative underway scheduled for your brother's wedding. I really want you to understand that you may not go to your brother's wedding.
Mm-hmm.
I said, do you understand? And he's like, yes, I understand. And I said, I'm putting it in that, you're going to be the person that stays behind. Everybody else is going to be here to support. We have what we need to get through the underway. And, everything worked out.
Yeah. And I think too, just being like so upfront with these sailors when it comes to
Mm.
situations like that, they'll
Mm-hmm.
respect it more, whether the outcome is
Yeah.
what they want or what they don't want. Because too
Mm-hmm.
many times I've seen it, like, oh yeah, we'll see, and then nothing. We'll see
Yeah.
turns into absolutely nothing. And it's like, no, man, like we're not doing anybody a favor. My
Yep.
mentality is like they're grinding for me.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Mm-hmm.
grinding 12 hours a day when we're underway.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes more, like, so why not
Yeah.
take care of them? Why not try everything in my powers?
Mm-hmm.
And especially for y'all, man, I do not envy you, girl. Your guys' job, like, oh my gosh.
I
It's just
know.
like them working in the galley and then all the drama
Mm-hmm.
that you guys have to deal with outside of the galley. I do
Yes,
not.
yes, yes,
It takes a
yes.
strong person to be a CS.
I know, and I tell my guys all the time. I'm like, being a CS, it's a thankless job.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's gonna, and most jobs are in the Navy. Nobody's gonna come and say, "Oh, thank you for fixing us a hot meal today,"
Yeah.
because it doesn't always be a hot meal. And I'm being upfront and honest because I've told my guys. I said, "Hey, you guys need to put hot meals. They need to be They need to look good. You can't just." Come up here and just throw anything on the line because you as a customer, if you on the opposite end, you wouldn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
So keep that in mind when you're serving others. Yes, you signed a contract and you're going to be here anyway because that's kind of the saying, oh, I got to be here anyway. Okay, well, why not put your best foot forward?
Yeah.
Like, why not make sure that people have good things to say about you? Because, soon as you make a bad meal, that's the running thing. Like, it's like you're only as good as your last meal.
Yeah.
So
Are
it's
you
like
seeing
that's the
all
running thing.
those social media posts? Where it's like what I had for dinner
Absolutely.
today.
I was
Oh,
like, we got a bad rep. I'm like, no, because
yeah.
I just some backstory. When I joined, I took the ASVAB in high school, not thinking, oh, I'm going into the military at the
Yeah.
time. So then I started hearing, oh, they said these people in white uniforms were looking for you. And I'm like, what you mean? So I passed the ASVAB to
Yeah.
join the Navy, not knowing, I passed it. So then they was like, oh, would you consider joining the Navy? I'm like, maybe. I said I want to go to culinary arts school. So they were like, oh, we have a great culinary program, selling me a dream. I'm like, okay. I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm,
they
I'm
did
ready.
it.
I'm down for it. So I get in and I'm filled in. I was like, I didn't sign up for this. Like I signed.
Yeah.
I signed up to be cooking. Like, why am I not cooking yet? So A school was kind of backed up at the time, back in 2008 when I joined. So I was like, okay, once we got in, I got my foot wet. And, just already growing up, I was in the kitchen with my grandmother and family and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it kind of just came second nature. However, the other things outside of cooking in the galley are what really like kind of, trying to do double work. You have to learn damage control. You have to learn what the mission is. And, you have to do all these other calls and things.
Yep.
Maintenance. So it's like, that's like a foreign language to us as a CS, because we're operators. We're not the ones turning wrenches. So it's just like, to have a cook start doing maintenance, man, that was some of the biggest struggles, going into the military and learning these things. But, with procedural compliance, you want to make sure like, hey, I can't save you when this black and white is on paper. It's on paper. It says you have to do this step by step. So, I try to reinforce that with my guys. I'm like, please know when maintenance come around, you know what you're doing. We have to like put certain people in places that could do certain things and, make sure the guys that are doing it actually want to do it and understand what they're doing. So, that was the biggest struggle of getting them to like, understand, hey, you still gonna be cooking in the galley. You might be on your feet 12 hours a day, but then you got to kick into another mode when it's time to do damage control stuff. You got to kick into another mode when it's time to do maintenance or when it's like medical training team stuff.
Exactly.
So just understand, like, you guys are doing a lot of things at one time, and we all need to support each other in those moments.
Yeah, because I mean, we want the job to get done, which you guys are working a lot, but then we also want to empower them too,
Absolutely.
And especially these young bucks, they want to know, well, why I gotta do 3M, why I gotta do DC. And I'm like, look, when shit hits the fan, shit gonna hit the fan, and we gotta put out that fire,
Absolutely. And I want the best people on the job, because I'm gonna be on that hose too. I'm gonna be a hose man. I'm gonna be whatever they need me to be in those moments, because once I made chief, and even in the process of making chief, and I talked to other chiefs, and one of my friends put into perspective, like, have you ever been that person to have to close the hatch on sailors, to save the ship? And I'm like, I've never thought about the Navy in that context until you become a leader. You know what I mean? You have to be able to take those moments and live on and proceed on after the military. And I'm like, I never thought about it like that. You have to be the one to sacrifice. Always sacrificing people over the mission and the grand scheme of things. It's always something bigger that we're planning for. And I think a lot of the times we lose sight of that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And, even just this past, season's been done for like 2 months, but just teaching that over again. It's always, I think it's an impact that not very many people get to understand until they're in it.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to switch gears. So, social media.
Okay.
All right. I think I first stumbled on it was your chiefly advice for the day. And it was if they get on your nerves, get on theirs too. That had me dying. So what made you want to do social media?
So it was just an outlet, because at first I wasn't doing military content. I said, I don't want to do military content. I do military all the time. So I was like, I'm going to stay away from it. But as time went on and I seen other military content creators, especially the Army had a big presence at first, and then slowly the Navy started coming up. So I'm like, why not? I'm like, I feel like I'm a good leader. I'll be a good influence. So why not? But that one video, that's the first video that took off. I seen a video of a sailor said, oh, crash out on that chief. I was like, what? I said, sailors are saying this on the internet? He was like, crash out on that chief. He was like, that was his advice, like, to sailors. And I was like, oh, that's what we do. I said, that's what we doing now. I said, I wish a sailor would, but I knew it was jokes.
Yeah.
This is their way of having an outlet, and I think some people kind of take it too serious sometimes. But I was like, okay, well, why not? Let's try it. Let's see what happens. So I did the same thing. I let them sailors get on your nerves, get on their nerves. Because we do get on each other. It's human nature. We get on each other's nerves. Like, why is it so bad for me to say, hey, they got on my nerves today? I'm still going to lead them. I'm still going to take care of them, but they got on my nerves today, so why not? I'm going to get on theirs. I'm going to poke. I'm going to ask questions, and I'm not saying I'm getting on their nerves in a negative way. I'm getting on their nerves in a positive way. They don't like to be held accountable. I'm holding you accountable. They don't like to hear the truth. I'm gonna tell you the truth. You did this today. You know, so when I say get on their nerves, yeah, I could get on your nerves, but I'm gonna hold you accountable. Oh, Chief, you always you on my back, yes, because I'm holding you accountable.
Yeah.
So it's like when I said it, I was like, man, I didn't think it was gonna go nowhere, but then I seen it like 6,000 views, 10,000 views. I was like, okay, so we going somewhere with it. So then I was like, you know, let me see what else sticks, and I just been doing it since then.
Yeah. Have you been getting like a lot of DMs and stuff? Just people, you know, resonating or laughing with you at your content?
Yes, I've gotten more concerned sailors. Actually, like it was one I think I posted about counseling chicks. I said write the counseling chicks, and you know that one kind of got a little backlash because on one end it is leaders out here doing things that sailors don't necessarily see the punishment behind it. And I had to explain that in my messages, like when they were messaging, I was like, you're not going to see a E7 or above. You're not going to see the punishment. You're not going to see them at a DRB. Their processes are in private. Not saying it's fair or it's right that, you know, junior sailors' processes are more out there in the open front. But I said, you don't want to know, like back in 2008 to 2010, the open captain's mass. Y'all have not seen punishment on a grand scale. So I'm just like, you know, making it aware that, hey, get that documentation. If sailors are doing something wrong, we have to hold them accountable.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people I have heard, even third, seconds, and first classes that I've tried to empower, hey, why do you keep allowing this behavior to happen? They're like, oh, counseling chicks don't go nowhere. That's not going to do anything to them. Okay, just because you don't see it now doesn't mean that sailor's not going to do something that gets them in trouble. You need a paper trail. And, you know, you need something in writing showing a consistency of this behavior. And I think I was trying to just make a understanding like, hey, it could be good counseling chicks or bad counseling chicks. You need to account for the behavior so sailors will understand like, hey, there's a right and a wrong. And, you know, in the wrong, you need to know, hey, this is what you did wrong. This is what we're doing forward. You know, this is to hold you accountable. You signed this. And even if they don't sign it, because I've gotten so much pushback. I'm not signing that. It's still a record of documentation. Like, just understand. It's for me to hold you accountable. You've seen it. I have a third party with me in the process. Like, so I'm not picking on you. I'm not doing nothing that's without of my range of what I can do. So just understand that you're getting counseled.
So yeah, people were messaging you about that?
Yeah, people were messaging me. It was one girl, I don't remember her name. She just messaged me, like, hey, my command, you know, there's this kind of stuff going on at the command. I was like, I am not the keeper of telling you what to do about this command. I said, but I will talk to you. This is what you can do. Because I've been an assistant semio before. And I was telling her, like, you know, go to your semio, let them know what the situation is, get some guidance, go to a trusted chief. Maybe they can talk you through some steps, because you want to try to do things at the lowest level possible. And then before you go and be like, oh, I'm going to talk to the captain, I'm going to talk to the XO. Because sailors do. They have that open door policy where they can just go and jump chain of command. And I'm just like, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean it's right. It doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. But let me try to correct it at my level if possible. If it's something that's more needed, some more insight on, like the XO or CO needs to know about it, okay, cool. But there are avenues such as the semio and your chain of command, your chiefs, that can help you and get you through it. So I gave her that advice. I haven't heard back from her, so I hope what I said helped.
Well, I think that's the tough part too, because we talk about our experiences, and then these sailors, they'll hold on to it. And they're like, well, I saw this one chief said this is how they did it, XYZ. And unfortunately, it's not the same across the board, you know. And I wish it was, you know, I wish that every outcome is the same. But unfortunately, it's just not that way.
It's not. Because perception is reality. And I hate that saying so much. I'm like, everybody's perception is different. So how do you hold everybody in the military to that standard? Because what's my perception is not yours. So I might think something is right, you might think something is wrong. So how do we across the board figure this out so no sailors are confused on what's right or wrong?
besides that one video, the chiefly advice, was there others that got a lot of traction, likes, views, comments?
The one with it was two. The one with CPO season, when the Chief Select would crash out, because I remember my season, I wanted to crash out so bad.
Yeah.
I wanted to go off. I'm like, why are they talking to me like this? This is not how I thought it would go.
Yeah.
So it's just like that one caught a lot of traction, and then the single mom one caught a lot of traction. And I pride myself in being a single mother, and I think a lot of single moms don't hear it enough, like, to encourage them, like, hey, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna make it through, whatever you're going through at your chain of command. And that's where I got a lot of feedback from. I actually made the post based off of one sailor. She had posted, I wish there was a 24-hour daycare, so I can, go do whatever I need to do for my command. And I'm like, the sailor is saying that she wants to work, that she doesn't mind the work, and she doesn't mind doing what's needed for the military. It's just the resources aren't available. So how do you reprimand her, saying that, oh, your child, you're not doing what you need to do as far as resources? She's asking for help, even though she came on social media as an outlet. The only thing I could do is make an encouraging post to be like, hey, whatever it is you're going through, you're gonna get through. And then I had another young lady, she messaged me, and she was like, my command, she's like, I feel like a burden. That's why I made the comment about being a burden earlier. She was like, I feel like a burden because every time I'm asking for something, they don't understand, or they're saying I need to do this or reschedule her appointments. You don't know what this girl's situation. Her child could be EFMP. She doesn't necessarily have to disclose medical stuff to you guys. She's asking, can she go do this? This is gonna be the time frame. Either she'll be back, or whatever happens with the appointment, she won't be back.
Yeah.
And like you said, she shouldn't be a single point of failure. So I just felt like I needed to make that post, just watching, sailors post about it, and then knowing where I've came from as a single mother. I wish I had that encouragement, going through. And, I got that encouragement from meeting other single moms and watching their journeys throughout the military, and watching their kids grow up.
Yeah.
And these are some awesome kids, you know what I mean?
They're resilient. These military kids, they're resilient.
Absolutely. And they don't hold it against us. They're like, Mom, we know you had to do this, but you still have that mother's guilt.
Yeah.
That you haven't been there, and you haven't been able to do all the things that you wanted to do in their lives growing up. But my son, he always said, Mom, I understand, I love you still, no matter, what you have to do. So I was like, I appreciate that, son. That's coming from you.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so what advice would you have for somebody that wants to start doing social media and TikToks?
No.
That's on our side, right? On the military side.
Yeah. So advice I would give them, one, I know the instruction is being pushed out mad hard right now. So make sure you know the instruction. Make sure you know what you can and can't do. Biggest thing is, whatever you do on social media, know the consequences.
Yeah.
If it starts coming down where they're checking social media accounts and seeing what people are posting, be prepared for whatever the consequence is. And I know even myself, I'm so skeptical of what I put out on social media and how I'm perceived, because one of my posts got like a bunch of backlash. And I know it's either bots on TikTok or, people that they've been out the military and they're not used to military being out there. But this is the new wave, new generation of sailors and service members. So you can't just be like, oh, well, you shouldn't do that because we didn't do this in 1960, 70, 80. I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? Like, this is the new wave. Back in my day, I'm like, this is the new wave of how people are getting information out there and reaching the masses. You know what I mean? Like, because I tell my sailors, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. And I said, whatever you can take from me and my leadership, take it.
Yeah.
Take it and grow from it. If it's something that you don't like, don't take it.
Yeah.
Get what you need from somebody that is like-minded like you, but also learn from those that are not.
Yeah. How many followers you got now?
Right now, I'm at like 5,500. So
okay.
I was like,
you almost there, halfway.
Almost there.
That's what's up. Okay, so what was the most difficult time as a single mom that you've had in the Navy?
The most difficult time, there's been a few.
Okay.
So, when I first had my son, when I first got pregnant with my son and I left the ship, so, I didn't have a car.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I felt like I was begging for rides and asking people to help me and, not knowing whether they were going to say yes or no. Um, I was, I had my son and I was in my house, right off of Coronado on the
Silver Strand.
Silver String. Yep, I had a house down there. So, I was by myself and, I'm like, what am I doing? My mind is just spiraling. Like, what am I doing as a single mom, by myself? And then me and his dad wasn't together. So, and this just a harsh reality. So it's just like, how am I going to do this by myself, figuring out childcare and, money, finances, where he's going to go to school at, all these things are just running through my mind. And my mom had left me. And I was like, she had came and stayed for like a month or two. And then she left me. She was like, you going to be okay. You going to be fine. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm like, I don't, just raising another living being, just like, I hope you don't get sick. I hope this doesn't happen. How I'm going to get here. And luckily, one of my coworkers, she stayed in my same complex.
Yeah.
And she would like pick me up from work. And if I needed to go to doctor's appointments, she would help me out. And because she was a married mom, she had kids and stuff too. So, I was thankful that, somebody was helping me because I'm like, what would I have done if somebody was just like, nope, I'm not helping you. I'm not doing this. So, and then when I had to leave and go back to sea duty, I think that was the saddest time because my son was only like, I think he was turning 1 because, the policy back in the day, you only got like 42 days, like 6 weeks to be on convalescent leave. I'm like, they're getting months and months of leave now. And I'm like, I'm thankful that they're making changes. But at the time, 42 days to turn around and be like, oh, you got to go back to sea.
Yeah.
You got to leave your child. I think that was some of the hardest times, like just having to up and leave and be like, what's going to happen? Is he going to remember me? Is he going to miss me? And what was sad when I did finally get to come home, he didn't remember me. And I'm just like, that just broke my heart, having to let him know like, hey, this is your mom and re-engaging with them. So, that was like one of the toughest parts, like knowing that I had been gone for such a little time, but, it was such an impact on his life. Excuse me. It was such an impact on his life, being so young, not really, understanding why, but I knew why I had to leave and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, they definitely, those classes after deployment and they talk about reintegration. Yeah, that is tough. I came back from deployment last year. And my wife, my kids, they had their routine.
Yeah.
And then, my daughter, she was 3. She was kind of like hesitant, like, I wanted to be in her space, but she was just kind of like, no, like I want mommy. I'm like, okay. And having to like actually take what they said in those classes, because everyone's like, nah, like those are my kids. Like my kids are going to remember me. My kids are going to want to be around me. But like they build these routines without you, and you really got to like be cautious of how you integrate yourself back. But yeah, I can only imagine a baby, that sucks. I'm sorry about that.
It's okay, we got through it because his grandparents, his dad's parents, they were very helpful at that time. They took him, and when I went to go visit them, since he had moved around so much because we was in San Diego and they were from Indiana. Okay. So he's moved and now he's walking and doing his own thing. He's like a big kid, baby now, and I'm like, oh, it broke my heart. I'm like, you don't remember? And I'm like, I was only there for like 2 weeks, so it wasn't like a full integration back into his routine. So I only had a few days of leave, so I'm like, I'm gonna make the best of it. I'm gonna do as much as I can. But once I get back, after we did the whole swap and everything, once I went to sea and came back from the whole swap, I was like, okay, I can get myself settled. I can get an apartment, and then fully get him back with me in San Diego.
Yeah. Oh, so that's good that he was able to be with his other grandparents. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, they've been a big help.
Yeah.
Them and my mom were a big help during this whole process. You know what I mean? I don't know where or what I would have been doing, without them. So I'm very appreciative.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, they definitely, what is that? It takes a village to raise a child.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I believe that.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's hard too, even just being in the military. Like, let's say, you didn't have your parents, finding people and trusting people. That's hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was another one. Like, I think I was in, actually, was I in San Diego? Yes, I was in San Diego and on the Essex when we came back. And I think I had duty or something. And my homegirls couldn't watch them. I think either they had just got off duty. So I'm like, I don't want to, pawn them off on them. So I had to like ask for resources. I'm like, where can I take him? And it was a lady somebody recommended. But I'm like, this, I don't know this lady. Just because you trusted on me, I have to trust her. So, just a hope, wish, and a prayer, that nothing happens to your kid, and people are gonna, people that are in the child care services are gonna do what they need to do, because I heard bad incidences too. It was one girl at my command. She was like, oh, the lady abused my child, and the whole shaken baby syndrome thing, and it was a lot. And I was like, I got scared. I was like, I don't want to send my child nowhere else, So I'm just like,
leadership puts that unrealistic expectation of like, oh, we'll just take them here. And I'm like, I would never tell another parent, just take your child here. You've never visited.
Absolutely.
You have no idea. That is crazy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I had to go, like at least I was thankful that the lady let me come and like take a preview of her house and her facility. She let me stay there a few hours to see how he would adjust. And like I said, I've been fortunate that most of the childcare resources that I have had have been like that. They've actually allowed me to come and check out their facilities and see how my child is integrated. And like I said, I'm so thankful that everything worked out. But I know that everybody's situation is not the same. And it sucks, like you said, that the military gives you this unrealistic expectation that, oh, just take your child here, you'll be okay, or do this. And then when you don't, when you're given pushback for taking care of your child, you're like, no, I don't want to do that. And now you can't stand duty, or now you can't, be on watch. And it's like, oh, you're the problem.
Yeah.
No, the problem is that I didn't have resources. I don't mind standing duty or watch.
Yeah.
I don't have the resources to accommodate me right now.
And they just think you're like trying to get out of work. It's like, no, I'm going to prioritize my kid's safety.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's, I mean, and that's one of the things too I was going to bring up before is when people, give you advice, one of the pieces of advice that I heard early on was like, don't do in-home daycares. And so I took my daughter to this, I don't know if corporation is the word, but they were an establishment, and they had so many kids, and my daughter she was coming home dirty, and I was like, what is this? And so I was like, well, people said in-home daycares are bad, but let me just try it out. And it ended up being like the best decision that I ever made. One, because I was getting the MCCYN, right? So the help for paying for daycare. And then two, it was this lady in our neighborhood. She had her master's degree in like child education and all that stuff. And she opened up a daycare in her home. And my daughter was actually her first baby. And she stayed there until she was ready to go to TK. And they literally became like family to us. Like they love my daughter. And when we left, that was actually tough for my daughter and for me, because I was like, man, like, all the times I was gone, my daughter was with y'all, right? My daughter was spending 8-hour, 9-hour days with them while my wife and I worked. So it's, that was tough, but now she's going to school. And now she's just like every other kid, I don't want to go to school. And I'm like, girl, come on.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that goes back to just like taking what people's advice, taking it in and kind of digesting it and seeing what works for you and what doesn't.
Absolutely. Yeah, because even with the MCC, like I didn't realize when I was stationed in New Jersey, they had base child care facilities, and then they had off base. They had people that certified through, I guess, the military, and they were on the list for outside child care, which I love, like you said, I found this one lady and she was teaching my son Spanish and she was doing all the things. And I was like, I love the community I had so much there, because even the childcare on base, I think that was like the first place we actually like were sad to leave, because it was our first like community of people that was just like so invested in what we had going on. So it was like when we left there, it was like it wasn't the same, so we left New Jersey, and then like I went back to sea and he came with my mom. So it's like we built that network in the military, and these people actually loved and took care of my son as much as I would. Like I said, I'm forever grateful for those people that have been connected with the military to help service members.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so last question. Okay. What advice would you give a single mom or a mom in general that wants to join the military but might think that like it's too hard because she has kids?
Advice I would give, because I know I need to do my own research, because I've heard, and I'm not sure if you heard, people that want to come in the military now with kids prior to the military, they have to give up guardianship. I was like, that kind of threw me for a loop, because it's like they're coming to make their lives better. How is them giving up guardianship of their kids, making sense? Because you already have family care plans in place. Just have them, once they get to their first command, fill out the family care plan. But like I said, I don't know the due process with boot camp and, all that stuff. That's why they have to do the guardianship thing prior to. I'm not sure. But the advice I would give is, one, make sure you understand what comes with joining the military. It's going to be some sacrifices. It's going to be some hard conversations that you have to have. It's going to be some times where you're going to have to make decisions that you're not necessarily okay with. I know we say make the best decision for you and your family. However, sometimes you are going to have to make the hard decision to either leave or, take your child somewhere that you might not necessarily want to. So you just making sure you understand that and are mentally prepared for that. I've had sailors that have cried in my lap about having to leave their kids.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, they weren't prepared for it. And I was like, you need to be prepared to possibly leave your child with either a family member or somebody that you choose to provide care for them. So that's one thing, making sure mentally you have that in the back of your mind. Two, understand that this is for the greater good of your family. Like I've had so many leaders say, your son is going to appreciate that you made this sacrifice for him. Your son is going to, you gave him a better life. You did all this to, make sure he had what he needed growing up, because I didn't have, this. I feel so much more accomplished knowing that I've made the steps to take care of my son, because like I said, everybody don't have that situation. And COVID is really what, put that into perspective for me. People were losing their jobs. People didn't have that stability that we had. Even though we had a mission to serve and we had some inconveniences with COVID, people were dying. We actually had medical benefits. We had money. We had a shelter. We were very much protected and safe and stable versus the outside world. So, just understand that being in the military, granted, it's tough. It's going to have some hard time. It's not going to be all peaches and cream all the time. But, there's a bigger picture on the other side.
Yeah. Okay. All right, everybody. So before we log out of here, I got to ask her, what chiefly advice you got for today?
All right. Chiefly advice for today. Listen to the podcast When We Serve. There are some good mentors and leaders on here that are giving some good advice to single mothers, single sailors, all sailors of all generations. Please come watch the podcast and listen.
All right. I appreciate you. Hey, so this has been a dope episode. I hope all y'all have a great day. And remember all the amazing things we do when we serve. All right. Peace out, y'all.